Hi everyone, today we're going to be looking at how to find a great stock and what to look for to try and find some of these amazing stocks that will give you a big massive return of over 50%, 100%, even 200%. So I'm going to be sharing with you today my methods of that I use to go and find a great stock. So I'm going to be sharing with you a few key websites that I use, a couple of key metrics that I use, and the kind of theory that I have. And the thing is, when you're investing and when you're trying to find great stocks, is that you'll eventually find a method that works for you, and you might take a few different investing methods from a lot of different investors and then build your own. But I'm going to be sharing with you how the process that I go through to go and find or try and buy a great stock. And I know a lot of you guys have wanted this video for a long time, so I thought it's about time I managed to get around to doing it. So if you could like the video, that would be absolutely amazing. And throughout the video, because I'm going to be talking about finding a stock, I'm going to be referencing to one of the stocks I recently bought. So just for example, I'm going to be using Pinterest. So when I'm searching different methods, I'll be using Pinterest as the stock I'm looking into. But as you know, I've already looked into it previously. But at some point, I hope to do a full video, like me going through a stock that I don't know and sharing that with you. The only thing is it would take me about half an hour, and I'll be honest, I really don't have half an hour to commit to the filming and the editing, so I'm going to do it kind of in a quick pace kind of scenario. But realistically, when you go to do this, it probably end up taking you probably at least 2 hours, 3 hours. So it's a brief version of how to do it, but yeah, there's going to be some really good information. So let's get started. So first of all, you need to find the stock, you need to know the stock, you need to hear about this stock. So personally, where I get my information from stocks from is people talking about them on CNBC. That's one reason. Maybe I'll see a news article on Seeking Alpha, maybe in Motley Fool. Also, the great thing right now is that we have YouTube, and there's a lot of investors now on YouTube space that are talking about stocks all the time. Even in the comment section of videos, there's a lot of people talking about stocks in the comment section below. So trying to find a stock is the first thing, but honestly, there's loads of different ways. I've heard of different stocks and looked into stocks from loads of different things before. I've even seen something that's been selling really well in the supermarket and gone, hold on, who makes this? Is it a public company? I've done that one before. I've heard people have messaged me going, oh, have you heard about this stock before? There's loads of different ways you find out about a stock, or it comes to you. But that's the first point I'd say, is that you've got to hear about this stock. Next thing is I'm going to do a Google search, and I'm just going to see a stock chart. And normally by now, at this point, after doing this, I can probably tell if I'm going to invest in a company. Probably I would go as far as saying 50% of the time, just by looking at looking at a Google stock chart. So when I look at this Google stock chart, what I'll start to see is the stock history. Is it a bit of a day trading stock or a swing trading stock? Is it on a good run? Is it on a discount? How long's it IPO'd for? So for Pinterest, I can see it's at $17. I see when it IPO'd in April 2019. And when I look at this stock, I can see that it is on a downtrend here. So I can see that it has gone up, and then for some reason it has pulled back after the IPO. When I look into the metrics underneath below, I can see the market cap size, so I can tell how big of a company this is. So I look here, market cap is 10 billion. So I can tell that this is not a massive company, but it's got a decent size to it. I look at the P ratio, and then I can look at how cheap this is. Now, because I've been in the stock market for so long, when I look at a company, I can normally tell if it's a good P or not. And obviously looking at Pinterest, there is no P, so straight away I can tell this is not a profitable company yet. But at the same time, if it did have a P, I kind of already know on the top of my head the P ratios of Twitter or Facebook. So when I see that P, I would know if it's a cheap P compared to a lot of other social media websites. If you don't know these because you haven't been in the stock market that long, that's something you probably want to compare to other competitors, is how cheap of a P ratio this is to other competitors in its area. And the next thing I'd look at is the dividend yield. So I'll look if it pays a dividend, and depending on what dividend that is, it might be I'm going to treat this as a dividend stock, or when I look into it, I'm going to treat it with a growth stock, because when I'm investing into different companies, I treat them differently. So if I'm going into a growth stock, I'm going to have a little bit more demand on that revenue front compared to a P ratio. If I'm looking at a dividend stock, I'm looking more towards how strong is that dividend yield, what's the payout history, what's the payout rate. And if I'm looking kind of into more of like just a value play, it's going to have like a decent PE and a little bit of a dividend. So depending on what the stock is, I'll be looking at different metrics on this side of it, and that's how I'll be judging them. For this one, obviously we're looking at a growth company, so I wouldn't really consider the dividend yield at all. I'd be kind of looking at the P ratio and the revenue growth with it being a growth stock. But just from this chart here, this is where I can obviously tell what kind of stock I'm investing in and what kind of history the company's had. So from here, I'm going to go and look into the company a little bit more. I'm going to be using companies to or websites to look into like the EPS side of it, the revenue side of it, what a couple of analysts are saying about it. Now, I normally use 3 websites for this. I use Yahoo Finance, I use Simply Wall Street, and I use CNN. CNN is pretty much for my like US stocks, so I can't really use that one for UK stocks. Yahoo Finance is good, but sometimes the data is limited on UK stocks. Simply Wall Street's fantastic, but you have to pay for it. I only pay about £50 a year for it, which is pretty good. I know that will put some people off it. You can find most of the information that is out on Simply Wall Street just by doing a little bit of a Google search. But for me, £50 isn't that much. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a baller. But no, like generally, like from a stock sale, it'll probably cover like most of the fees for Simply Wall Street. So I can use Yahoo Finance for this one, and I'll use Simply Wall Street just to show you what I'm looking at. I'm going to show you some of the metrics that I look at on Yahoo Finance. I'm also going to show you some of the metrics I use on Yahoo Finance. But like I say, if you're using UK stocks, sometimes you can't really use that much. But same again, we've kind of got the Google search on here, so I can just check that all this kind of information is correct. I also have underneath a couple of news articles. Now this will come useful later on, so just bear that in mind. Now on the right hand side of the homepage, what you'll also have is you'll have its earnings. Now on the earnings, you'll see historically how well has this done on the EPS front. So you'll be able to see if they normally miss earnings, if they normally beat earnings. You'll also be able to see what is forecast for earnings as well. You'll also be seeing if they're moving in the right way. I tend to use Simply Wall Street a little bit more than this one, so I'll talk about that in a second. Same again, financials, you'll be able to see if revenue is increasing, you'll be able to see if earnings are increasing. You'll also have recommendations from analysts, so you'll be able to see what a lot of analysts are thinking about it, which is really cool. And also you get the upgrades and downgrades from a lot of analysts as well, which is interesting to see what they're looking at as well. You've got on Yahoo Finance conversations, so what people are talking about. To be honest with you, I don't really take this that seriously because some people are just kind of like pushing their own agenda on here. But on statistics, there's some really cool statistics to look at. So you'll be able to see like the PE, the forward PE. A lot of people use some of these ratios. I don't tend to take them that seriously because when you invest into a company, your aim of the game to make money is not based on ratios. What you're trying to do is you're trying to think, why would people buy into this company? And most of the time, people are going to buy into this company because the company is doing well. And for the company to do well, you've got to see where that company is going to go. So you're looking at how the company is, how's that balance sheet going to be in 3 years? Is it going to be a better balance sheet? Will that lead to a bigger dividend? Is the company going to be growing revenue? Because it's growing revenue, more people want to get in that stock because it's growing revenue. If the company's making more profit, people are going to get in that company because the company's making more profit. There's all these things that you got to consider when you get into a stock. So I don't tend to get too hung over a lot of these ratios. But like I say, you might end up start using some of them. Price to sales, you can use that one. I sometimes kind of use that with a couple of growth stocks. People like to use the price to book ratio quite a bit. Also on here, you kind of can see like the profitability. You have a quick look at the income statement. So you get revenue, quarterly growth, everything like that. There's a little bit of a glimpse into the balance sheet, so you can kind of see how the company's doing with the balance sheet wise as well. And financials wise, I used to use this before I had Simply Wall Street, but basically you can get like the income statements on here. You get the balance sheets, and what's really cool is it like compares the balance sheets to like previous years as well. And people always ask me about the insider trading. Like if you don't buy Simply Wall Street, like right here, you can see that like there's a lot of things going on in the stock through Simply Wall Street. It's just not as clean, to be honest with you. I prefer Simply Wall Street. It's just so much cleaner. But like I say, here you can kind of get what's going on with the insiders here. But if I was to pop over to Simply Wall Street, which is one that I've used more than Yahoo Finance, but like I say, you've got to pay for it now. So when you go into the summary, you kind of see I don't actually know what this is actually called, but it's the Snowflake analysts here. But you can kind of see like what they think of the company, and like from here you can see that it thinks it's got a good, well, an okay future. It's good health. The past isn't great, but that's obviously because the company hasn't been around that long and on the stock market. You can see the dividend here, like it's poor dividend, that's because they don't pay one. And value, you can see here that they think it's a bit of an expensive company. But you can see some like key points from the company, like some star points, and at the same time you can see some like negatives with the company. And on this kind of chart that is on Simply Wall Street, I also like seeing, like, I can see why the stock has kind of moved because it pinpoints a lot of events as well, which is really cool. On this one as well, I kind of get a valuation here about Simply Wall Street, what they think about the stock. To be honest with you, I don't take their valuations that serious because they don't really like growth stocks. I do take them into consideration. I should take that back actually. I do take them into consideration, but growth stocks, they tend to be really harsh on them, so I don't really look at them that way. You've got your price to earnings ratio, which compares it to like the other industries. You get price to earnings growth ratio. You get price to book ratio. I say sometimes I do use price to book ratio, not always, but that's one that I do tend to use a little bit more. And you see like it compares it to like the industry and the market as well, which is really cool. And then you get your future growth, and like say this kind of gives a better picture of what Pinterest is going to do future growth wise, and EPS front and revenue front. So you can see like when the company is predicted to go profitable and like the revenue increase. Just as a point here, because I did buy Pinterest, like I personally don't think, with my research, I believe that the revenue chart on this one's correct, but the EPS is wrong. I think they'll be a lot more profitable a lot quicker than this. But like I say, that's we'll get onto that later, but that's what this is saying about it. And also on this here, we've got the debt to equity history, where we can see how much debt and how much equity is in there. We can also see a balance sheet, so we can see what sort of cash they're holding, physical assets they have, long-term investments, equity. We also, if they had debt, would see debt on this here as well. And also down below, it has, this would be useful if the company paid dividends, but you can kind of see like how well the company pays a dividend compared to market and other companies that are very similar. It also has its payout ratio, which obviously it doesn't have a payout ratio because it doesn't pay a dividend, but it would also say how safe that dividend is as well. Obviously, if that was, if the circle was over 100%, obviously then the company are paying their own. They're not making enough money to cover the dividend, which is something that you need to look out. And then also it has a bit of information about the management. It'll also have a breakdown of the leadership team, and then you'll also have ownership, which is, as you can see, is so much more clearer than like, there's no one actually sold or bought this stock, so I'm not using a really good example here. But you would be able to see like what is happening inside the company. You know what? I'm just going to switch this to Greg's. Ta-da! And then we can see like insider trading volume, and like here, this is a lot more better because I can show you then. We've got like the insiders, and you can see Greg's has a lot in the last 3 months. And then on the insiders, you'll be able to see like who's actually buying them. So right now we can see that Roger Whiteside, and it'll say his role is the CEO, and Richard Hutton, member of the board. So we can see what they're doing, how many they've bought, which is really cool to see. So this is kind of like how I can see into the companies a lot more. Like I say, you can do all this. I like to use Simple Wall Street, but like I say, you have to pay for it. But all this information you can get free on the internet. I just like using Simple Wall Street because I get it all in one place a lot more quicker. But like I say, you can get most of this on Yahoo Finance. And you can probably find all this information out through individually Google searching. But Simple Wall Street just gives it all to me in one chunk, and that's why I don't mind paying for it, because it just saves so much time for me. And next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and read the investors relations. So if for Pinterest example, I go on the website, investors relations, read into the company, see what they say about it, see where they believe the outlook's going to be, what they're doing really well. So that's going to take a while. Probably listen to a few conference calls. Obviously there you'll be able to hear into what questions they're getting asked by like analysts as well. So sometimes they can get asked some difficult questions, which is really interesting to hear. So yeah, read the earnings reports. I'll go listen to conference calls. Next, I'm going to read articles, and that's what I said on Yahoo Finance. Some of them are there. To be honest with you, most of the time I go to Motley Fool and Seeking Alpha for this, and I'll search in Pinterest and I'll see the articles. And in the articles, it'd be really cool because a lot of people will be talking about negative points about the stock and why you shouldn't buy it. And also they'll be talking about some positive things about the stock, and you'll be able to see what they think about it. Just be careful because some people are kind of like pushing their own agenda there. So if someone's shorting like Pinterest, they're not going to be writing nice things on purpose. You know, there is going to be a bit of a biased like vision in there. So just be really careful of that. I'm also going to look at other stocks. So I'm going to see if this is a best company in the sector. So I'd compare this to like Facebook, Twitter, maybe Snapchat, them kind of stocks, and see how this value is compared to them. Obviously you would have to take like this was a growth stock into consideration. So like this compared to Snapchat would be a very good one to compare. And then after you've done all that, you're going to have to make your own decision, see where you think the company's going to go. How is it going to increase that revenue? How is it going to grow that EPS? Because you've got to kind of think, you can put all the ratios in, but a ratio isn't going to tell you if the revenue is going to go up, EPS is going to go up. You've got to look and see, is this company going to serve a demand? And if they're going to serve that demand, the revenue and EPS goes up, and then the share price goes up. So you've got to look into it and go, right, so Pinterest for me, for example, I looked into all these companies and I go, right, the growing users, it looks like they're going to carry on growing users. How they're going to make money? So they make the money from their advertising. So I'm going to look into the advertising. Can they make more money from the advertising in the next 5 years? And then I look into it and I go, yes, because the advertising revenue on the international side of Pinterest is shockingly poor. It's the worst in the social media game. So if they carry on increasing it like how they carry on doing it, which at the moment it's growing at like 76% as of the last earnings report, then this stock's going to go up when the ad revenue for international goes up. So just searching into that, that's how I got that theory, and then eventually using all that, my understanding of the company, and that's how I bought in. Now, the last one is to set and buy a target for when you're going to buy into the stock. So when you're going to buy into a stock, you need to set the point where you buy. So where's a value for this stock that you think's cheap? For me, I came to the valuation that Pinterest is fairly valued under $20 seems about fair for it. And then you've got to set a target where you're going to sell. Where do you think this company is valued? And I think that in 2 to 5 years that I'm going to double my money on Pinterest. So for me, I want to make 100% off Pinterest in 2 to 5 years. So you kind of got to look at where you think that company is going to go and set your targets of your buy and sell. But like I say, this is a really kind of like brief overlook on how I invest into companies, but hopefully that kind of breakdown will help you a little bit when you're looking into companies and sites to use. Like I say, I'd love to do a detailed one at some point, but I'll kind of do that when I've got a bit more time. But I hope this video was useful for you guys that were looking into stocks and some things to look at. And as always, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you can like it, that's absolutely amazing. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you on the next one.